Big thanks go out to Taiwa for supporting today's video via Patreon. Shelob versus Joda, Rocco and Aragorn. Let's see here, it's just a slow turn 3 black market connections. I mean, we won't ramp in this deck. We do in most decks, but Shelob costs 6, so we definitely want it in this one. Alright, so that takes us into the mana we need. A Vampiric Tutor could go for an Urborg for the Cabal Coffers. Maybe see what we draw in the first few turns before we make a decision on that, but I will try this one. Drawing into a Morbid Curiosity on turn 1, it's just a tap land. Drawing into a Morbid Curiosity on turn 1, it is just a tap land for us. Because we can always... yeah, we can always get out a Twin Silk Spider next turn with the Ancient Tomb, so we can hold on to the Vamp Tutor until we decide what we want to do there. I'm just noticing now, we've gone through to the Rocco player's turn. Aragorn hasn't played a land, didn't keep a no lander, surely. Hopefully not, or this is going to be a 3-player game. Alright, yeah, I don't feel as bad about getting down Ancient Tomb if we're going to go for this Urborg, because that'll be out of tap for black. We won't have to put too much life into it. We draw into a low, which is really good on our commander specifically, but any Death Touch spiders really with a decent amount of power. So we'll get down the Twin Silk Spider, and when that enters it comes in with a 1/2 spider token. And there we go. I was... okay, knocking the microphone, excellent. If you can hear meowing and purring and banging of the microphone, then I apologise. We seem to have acquired a kitten somehow. And of course, it's been aloof and didn't care about anything that we did or said towards it all day until I sit down and record, and now it wants to try and disrupt our recording session because it's a cat. And that's what cats do, apparently. Yeah, Cretin's colleague found this cat. It's probably maybe a few months old, and took it to the vets, got it all sorted out, but whilst it's looking for a home, and she can't look after it, we're fostering it, and yeah, it's just jumped up into my lap just as I hit the record button. And yeah, if we get any feline disruptions, then I apologise, but I'm trying to keep the little thing amused. It's only just started to decide that it wants some attention. Seeing a Feyburrow Elder from the 5-colour player, haven't seen any other spells yet. Looks like Aragorn might have missed a turn after all. So let's get... I don't think we're going to play anything else this turn, so we might as well go for the Vamp Tutor now and get down the Urborg. Alright, so obviously draw the Urborg, play into it, and there's nothing else we are doing here, so we'll just pass the turn. Obviously I will put the cat in the other room, but it's only a young one, so I don't want it to go without attention, because I'm in the house alone at the moment. Anyway, enough cat talk for one video. A Stomp from the Rocco player, dealing with the Feyburrow Elder before it gains any more power and toughness. And then through to Rocco's turn, Aragorn just playing another land. And out comes Rocco Street Chef, the first commander of the game. And then at the beginning of the end step, we do get to exile our cards, of course. We see a Sweet Gum Recluse, which might actually be worth playing. I was going to go for my commander, but testing for removal might be an idea first. And it's not like there's anything to kill with our commander at the moment. It's a land from the Aragorn player, which they might not be too happy to see. And there is a Thought Reflection, which is good to see the back of. It's a Bloodbraid Elf for the Rocco as well, from Rocco's ability. Joda, Archmage Eternal into play. So maybe we do just follow suit and go for our commander. Alright, awesome. And drawing in... okay, crawling all over the desk now. Excellent. Right, just don't press the keys, cat. Oh, Jesus. I should have like a camera on my head to show you what's going on here. Right, yes, just lie down there. Moving my keyboard around to suit this thing. Right, so we go. Cabal Coffers, I hope. That's 4 mana. So yeah, let's just go for... we don't have the double green yet, so... yeah, we'll just go for the Shelob and we'll forego the Sweet Gum Recluse. Couldn't have done that this turn anyway. Gives our creatures Ward 2 and Death Touch. The first spell from Aragorn is a Verge Rangers, and now we see cast from exile the Bloodbraid Elf for the Rocco player, so triggering the Rocco, putting a plus counter on itself, and they will cascade from the Bloodbraid Elf, of course. And that cascades into Boulder Rush, so that will just be a 3/1 dwarf. Oh no, they can do it as the instant, so deciding to give +2 to Rocco until the end of the turn. Yeah, so that jumped up to a 6/6, didn't swing in with it though. The 3/2 must have gone in over at Joda, and Joda decided not to block for obvious reasons. Okay, so probably going to see a big spell from Joda here. That was the risk of allowing Joda a turn. And of course, they just so happen to have one of the scariest things that we could have hoped to see. Apex Devastator cascade 4 times into, awesome, a Void Winnower. I did ask for power level 6 here, and we're seeing a turn 5 Apex Devastator. And a Portal to Phyrexia. Okay, and then this player decided to scoop on us anyway, and then for some reason the game crashed. I'm not sure why it crashed, but yeah, as you can see there, conceded the game, lost the game, so decided to get down a Portal to Phyrexia, and then wipe the board, and then scoop, so yeah, we'll try again, shall we? Okay, let's try again. Shelob versus the Watcher in the Water, the Scarab God, and Shadrix. That is a 2-lander with no green mana. Devoted Druid we can get infinite green mana with, but yeah, it's a mulligan for now. Alright, and into a hand with no ramp. Got plenty of it in the deck, so we should be drawing into it. Go down to 5 in hand, and that is looking better on first inspection. So we get rid of the last March of the Ents there, I think. We'll shuffle around with the Entish Restoration. That is a, not necessarily a better Harrow, but can get more lands with it if we get into our commander first, which I doubt we will. Drowned Rusalka for the mono blue player. Alright, and we go into a Sol Ring, which... do we care about getting Swiftfoot Boots down here? I think we're fine to do that. We're only really up against a white player that's likely to deal with artifacts. Obviously, blue players can nowadays, but it's not as likely. And that still leaves us online for the Entish Restoration next turn. Noteworthy that there is a Creeping Tar Pit here for the Scarab God. Thought Vessel comes down for the blue player this turn. So we managed to keep our Sol Ring intact. There is a Bite card in the form of Cosmic Hunger. Noteworthy that there's a difference between Fight and Bite cards. Bite cards are one way. We deal our power to another creature, but it doesn't fight back. So we need to shock down the Overgrown Tomb because we need green mana. And then I don't think it's likely we're going to get into another 2 mana next turn, otherwise I'd go for a Spider. Then our commander the turn after, then Entish Reclamation. But I'd like to get down my commander with Swiftfoot Boots attached anyway, so even though it's got Ward 2, people can play around that. Not so much in the early game, granted. A Gleaming Overseer, so we'll assume that it's a zombies deck that we're up against here. That will give the zombies menace. I'll just go for the Entish Restoration now before the mono blue player untaps. I doubt he'd counter an Entish Restoration, but it's noteworthy that, unlike Harrow, you have to, with Harrow, sacrifice as part of the cost. But with the Entish Restoration, it's part of the resolution, so that's part of why it could be slightly better than Harrow. Because with Harrow, you can get punished by getting countered on that. You go down a land and you've put mana into a card. So just 2 lands from the Restoration, but we do go up a land there, of course. Okay, the blue player holding up mana now, so it might be that there's a counter spell in line for the Shelob. So in that case, it's either the Skyfisher Spider or the Rot Widow pack, I think. So I think the obvious one is the Rot Widow pack here. It'll just be a generic 2/4, but it can sit in the way of some attacking creatures at least. Throw the Swiftfoot Boots on there. I don't think the mono blue player was holding up priority in the end there, but we do have to play around it. We'll get down the Kalni territory as a tap land ready for our commander next turn. Although might hold off again because, like I said, I'd like to put the Swiftfoot Boots on our commander if I can. Headless Rider for the zombie player, that's a really good one. And it was a pull from tomorrow that our opponent was holding up, so draw 2, discard, and discarding an island with that, funnily enough. Now there's a nesting ground so that they can move stun counters from the commander. tapping out into something, and it is the commander. So even without the Swiftfoot boots attached, we're probably best getting down our commander now whilst most are tapped out. This could be a swords or a path that they could pay the ward cost on. That is a Master's Rebuke. Yeah, we're not doing anything else. I think we just go for Shelob here. Not seeing any swords or path from our opponents, so they either don't want to use it or they don't have it in hand. Intangible Virtue for the tokens player. An Invasion of Amonkhet for the Scarab God. So when it enters the battlefield, each player mills 3 and each opponent discards. And it will be the Shadrix that is going to be defending this. It will be a zombie and a copy of any creature in a graveyard. So let's see here, we've got 2 of our bite cards. That one can do it to Planeswalkers. That one can do it to Planeswalkers and battles, so we get rid of Master's Rebuke. We see in the graveyard here True Conviction, Basri's Lieutenant, a land and Khan's Bastion. Here a Golden Guardian, Undead Warchief, and a Bonder's Enclave. And both of those are going to go in and attack the battle, which will have it turn into that Lazotep Convert. Let's see here, a Mystic Remora, Arcane Signet, an Island, and a Psychosis Crawler. Our opponent got from us Finn, some ramp and a land, so successfully destroying the battle. Okay, but then deciding not to cast it. Can they cast this later? When it's defeated, exile it, then cast it transformed. And they decided not to do that. I don't think they can do it later. I think they have to do it as soon as it goes down. Okay, so the blue player just passing straight through the turn with 3 cards in hand. Can obviously move a stun counter with this, like I said. Drowned Wasulka can draw during our turn to get some triggers as well. Alright, so it's just a forest for us. And I don't think we're too bothered about going for the Skyfisher Spider until later on, so we're probably just holding up the Cosmic Hunger, and yeah, that's about all we're doing here. Let's go Swiftfoot Boots onto the Shelob, see if any of our opponents want to respond to that. Okay, we do successfully get haste on our commander. So now we'll go through to the mono blue player. Commander damage might be relevant in this deck. And I'm assuming that they're just going to chump with this and sacrifice it. Noteworthy that thanks to the mill we can now go for this and make another spider. Our opponent deciding to take the damage, surprisingly. Now seeing a frantic search from the blue player during the blocking phase, which will make some tentacle tokens. Discarding to the frantic search, and Archmage Emeritus, that's a good one to discard, for us at least. A basic island as well. So down come the tentacle tokens. Okay, so like I said, they've done this in the blocking phase. They should have done it in the attacking phase, so blocks have been declared now. We still get our 8 commander damage through. Obviously they could have jumped with this. Shadrach's into play now, so I'm wondering if we... depends where the abilities go, I suppose. Do we fight this, or do we get rid of the slumbering creature over there? Alright, targeting the blue player. I think that will probably be the last player that I was going to give anything to be honest. So they give themselves an Inkling, and pretty sure the blue player just drew a card. Alright, the Scarab God has lost due to disconnection there. Has been having connection issues throughout the game. Won't ban him for that because Magic Online can be really weird with its connection issues sometimes, unfortunately. Okay, the Drowned Rusalka being activated here, discard and draw. And the Watcher in the Water targeting the Sol Ring. And drawing that card triggers the Watcher, making another tentacle token, of course. And they just got rid of a Skull Clamp. I'm not sure what this player's thinking of, really. So now sacrificing another tentacle to the Drowned Rusalka ability. And yeah, we'll maybe let them stun a few things, and then I might just fight this thing out and force them to replay it. But if they're going to be targeting my opponent's stuff, then I don't mind. Although, yeah, that doesn't have vigilance, so... And it's also not tapped, so when does the stun counter get removed? Oh, that's cool. You can actually store stun counters on things. When it would become untapped, removed 1 from it instead, so... That could stay on there for the rest of the game until it attacks, and then it won't untap during the next untap phase, which is interesting. Going for it again, now targeting our Rot Widow pack, which I'm fine for them to put more mana into. So make them pay the 2 ward. And they've discarded a Fabricate as well. And then discarding a Wizard class, still 3 cards in hand. Alright, and then going for another ability, so going to completely tap out, which means we can go for the Cosmic Hunger, I think. Wanting to put another stun counter on the Sol Ring, unfortunately. But Shelob can give the Watcher in the Water a bite and get rid of that. And that does mean that we'll get a food copy of it, which I don't think's going to be too important to us. Yeah, I don't know if there's too many means of us drawing cards on our opponent's turn in order to trigger this. We've got Return of the Wild Speaker, could get us a bunch of Tentacle tokens. And we actually do need some card draw at the moment. There's a Body of Knowledge in the bin as well. Now a Jace's Archivist I don't mind seeing. Alright, we get into a land which I don't particularly mind, so let's really encourage the blue player to go for that wheel. We'll probably draw 4 or 5 cards with it, but if we get rid of this thing, then it's going to switch off their engine once they get their commander back down, which means they'll want to draw new cards, I think. So we could play out the Skyfisher Spider. It's got a... thought we could sacrifice a food with this, but it has to be another creature. I was going to sacrifice this to it, but I don't really want to lose anything else. We can go for a spider token with this still. So I think all we're ultimately doing is hoping that the Shadrix is going to give us some advantage. If we concentrate on the blue player, they can chump and go for the Drowned Rusalka activation, but yeah, we'll just keep encouraging them to go for this Jace's Archivist, I think. Okay, decided not to go for the Spirit's ability, just chump blocking, so we do get a Tentacle token there. Funny that you get token copies of tokens. So it's noteworthy now that obviously we have a Tentacle token, so we can sacrifice it with this. Problem is, does this count as dying? I think only creatures die, so I don't know if this Tentacle token going down will trigger the Watcher in the Water. But we could put a stun counter on something is all I'm thinking. Anyway, it's the Immortal Sun from the Orzhov player here. Okay, and the blue player did have a counter spell, so going for that on the Immortal Sun. And now we see the trigger from Shadrix. Alright, still doing stuff for the blue player though. So if they're going to keep doing that, we'll have to concentrate a bit on the Shadrix as well. There's a card draw and an Inkling up for grabs. So it's an Inkling there and a card draw for the Orzhov player. And now Shadrix coming in towards us. That is a double striker. I think I might actually take them up on that offer, to be honest. Because I wouldn't mind getting a food copy of the Shadrix. Our opponent might be forgetting about the Death Touch here. So the first strike damage is dealt, dealing 2 to our 4 power. And then those two will trade, so Shadrix goes back, we assume, into the command zone, but we do get a copy of the Shadrix here. And there it is in the command zone. Could have activated the Rot Widow pack in response there to exile the Finn and make ourselves a spider token. Maybe should have done that, but I want to see what we can do with the Tentacle and see if it counts as dying into our new blue commander. It's a Wavebreak Hippocamp from the blue player, which is a very good one. Alright, we have to assume our opponent's going to go for the Jace's Archivist just before his turn at the end of Shadrix's turn. Now, seeing as how Shadrix isn't cooperating with us, let's sacrifice this Tentacle and hope that it dies. Yeah, it's not a creature, so it doesn't count as dying. I was hoping that we'd be able to put a stun counter from here over to the bounce land here, and that would lose them 2 mana. But at least we know now, confirming what we already thought. Just hope for a decent draw at this point. Alright, a Nemesis Mask. Couldn't ask for much better than that, to be honest, so they could activate Jace's Archivist in response. We don't have a means of activating different coloured mana at the moment. That's why you'd like the utility of something like a Chromatic Lantern or something like that. Because obviously in Golgari we can't normally activate blue spells, but we would be able to with that permanent. Anyway, we do have a little bit of a Voltron theme to this deck, so play out the Nemesis Mask and hope that we don't see any counter magic. We do not. So play and equip that. And then Shadrix should trigger at the beginning of our turn, so it can be... yeah, we'll put a plus counter... yeah, we'll put a plus counter on our commander, because then it'll be a 9/9, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 damage to worry about here. And then the Inkling player can have an Inkling. And it's noteworthy, I've actually no idea what I'm choosing for on Shadrix Silverquill here. It just says choose a player. So, alright, and then that one says about the plus counters. So the first one is the Inkling. So Inkling there. Then we get the plus counter. Not the best UI, Magic Online, as you're all aware. Alright, so they get that Inkling. There is a 9/9 Shelob. And then we go into the right and we hope to see the Jace's Archivist be activated here. Will behoove them to do it as well because they are going to draw 6 cards. And we've just tapped out, so... Alright, so there is a Cyclonic Rift, that's a shame. So, they're not overloading it at least, but going to bounce the Nemesis Mask and draw a card to the Hippocamp. Suppose they would have wanted to use that before discarding it to the Archivist anyway. And the problem is they'll likely have counter magic that they draw into off the wheel during the next turn. Also, they're going to make us discard this. Anyway, blocking with the Tentacle, we do get another Tentacle token that we can gain a bit of life to. Okay, now seeing a Deathbringer Liege from the Orzhov player, which buffs these up to a 5/4, and yeah, we're still getting those. The Shadrix player must have had a bad interaction with the Shelob deck. Not seeing a wheel from Jace's Archivist, instead a Mystic Sanctuary, which I bet is going to go for something we don't want, Counterspell or Cyclonic Rift most likely. Does make sense to go for this first before drawing with the Archivist. Yep, grabbing the Rift. So the Rift is on top of the library at the moment, and instead going for the Watcher in the Water again. Obviously no mana to dump into this thing, and the Jace's Archivist swings in at us as well, so it looks like it's a 2-on-1 against us. Yeah, the Hippocamp as well, and the Spirit. Okay, so we draw into an Assassin's Trophy. We can go for the Nemesis Mask again, and get rid of this stuff if it's going to be swinging in at us. So we'll attempt to land this before it gets wheeled away. I was definitely thinking the Archivist was going to go off there. Alright, and there's 13 damage that we're going to receive here. So as much as I'd like to put the Assassin's Trophy over onto something over here, I mean, this player just keeps swinging in at us, so we have to defend ourselves against that, don't we? It's another 10 points of damage next turn, followed by whatever swings in over here. Yeah, so let's go through to it. We can go for plus counters and drawing a card here, so yeah, we'll lose a life and draw a card. And the plus counters can go over here, so that'll have 6 power. These will have 6 power each, but they'll go down to 4 power each when we get rid of this with the Assassin's Trophy. Alright, and that gets us into another spider, the Spitting Spider. Wish I'd drawn into that sooner. Anyway, we'll swing into the left and open ourselves up to the blue player. So thanks to the Nemesis Mask, of course, they do have to block here. Alright, so everything blocking that as the equipment dictates, and then Assassin's Trophy, maybe we're about to lose anyway to the wheels, so get rid of the Liege, debuff those down to 4/3 so that the plus counter on the Shelob being absolutely relevant from the Shadrix. We are going to get rid of those Inklings, and it's just going to be food fodder for us. Don't have any trample on Shelob yet, unfortunately. Noteworthy, there is a manland over here in Shambling Vent, but tapping that down in order to get down the Shadrix Silver Quill. And I bet a bunch of plus counters are going to go over here. Seeing a Lightning Greaves after that. So protecting the Shadrix. So now the Shadrix being shown that he has to go in at the blue player, and likely just going to block with the Inkling token here. Not sure what abilities were chosen there. We haven't drawn a card. We haven't got a plus counter. No plus counters over here. Did they already have an Inkling before? Just decided to take the damage anyway. The blue player, straight through to the attack phase, does have a Cyclonic Rift in hand now, and not attacking in. So we probably force him to go for the Rift when we swing in straight away with Shelob. Might just go for the 2 mana variant again. Okay, Sylvan Library I don't mind landing this turn. So Shadrix, we will draw ourselves a card again. And an Inkling can go over here. So I think it's Inkling, and yep, we lose a life and draw a card. Yeah, the Shadrix food variant doing wonders for us here. That gets us into a Ruins Recluse, which is obviously another spider, so not going to spend any mana before we see a Cyclonic Rift. Want to force my opponent's hand. So our opponent tapping out. Looks like we are successfully forcing our opponent's hand here. And drawing a card to the Hippocamp as well. Making a Tentacle token as well. So we're going to lose these food tokens as well. That's the end of the Shadrix shenanigans. Obviously decided not to tap into the food token stuff there. We'll just get down at the Sol Ring again. And Yeah, I think we want the Sylvan Library in play, which means we can't go for our commander, unfortunately. But we can get a Reaching Death Toucher in the way, which should dissuade people from swinging in towards us. And then let's just go for the boots here and equip that to the Ruinous Recluse. I don't want to have my opponent see the Nemesis Mask in play and point removal at it. And like I've been saying for the whole game, if the only way that they can get rid of the mask is by wheeling with this, then I'm not against it. Shadrix into play again from the hand, consistently making lands over there. And then it's an Elspeth Tyrrell. Can they go for the minus on that straight away? No, they have to tick up and then go for the minus next turn, meaning the blue things can go wide on it. Decided to tick down anyway and go for the soldier tokens, so not going to be seeing the wrath from this anytime soon. Now we're either getting an inkling or a plus counter. Probably a plus counter on the spider. No, giving us an inkling and a plus counter on all this stuff here. Altar of Dementia now. So an easy way to sacrifice these tentacles. And the nesting grounds being activated, going to remove a stunt counter from the commander and place it onto the Shadrix. I'm hoping that Shadrix is finally seeing who the actual threat of the table is. Alright, turn 10. Let's see if we can get somewhere here. Going to draw more cards with the Sylvan Library. And there we see a Traverse the Outlands and a Morbid Curiosity. I'm just going to keep these. Go pretty aggressive on the Sylvan Library. So can the blue player counter our commander is the question. Yeah, we need to get down our commander anyway so that we can start making food, and then this is in here to give opponents the food, or actually sacrifice the food. There's a 4-mana version of this. The food tokens do keep their converted mana cost, weirdly, so we can actually draw a bunch of cards by sacrificing food if we manage to get rid of something that is of any relevance. So again, just need to try and get through the blue player with 3 cards in hand. And yep, now we see the Jace's Archivist. We were going to draw 5 cards regardless there. I would really have liked to keep the Traverse the Outlands, but it was never likely that we were going to get into anything there. Okay, a Mana Crypt and a Vamp Tutor could be relevant. Bunch of tentacles being made. And then our opponent can respond to Swiftfoot Boots being equipped anyway, so we might as well go for the Mana Crypt, try and put colourless mana into doing that. Because what I'd really like to do here is go for the Shadow Spear. Okay, and our opponent's going to have to be able to dodge the ward if he's got some kind of spot removal. Alright, going for the discard and draw a card with the Spirit. And yep, targeting our commander, but like I said, ward 2, so being saved by that, even before the Swiftfoot Boots lands. Noteworthy that we do have the Thornbite Staff as well, so we're not going to have to swing in with the Nemesis Mask anymore. This will sort of replace it. Does cost us mana though. Discarding to the Spirit, a basic, still 5 cards in hand of course. Alright, let's... yeah, we'll go for the Swiftfoot Boots onto our commander first of all, because they will be able to pay the ward on that to get rid of it. And then I don't want to panic the Orzhov player. He seems like a bit of a fickle player on who he goes towards, so much as I want to get down the Thornbite Staff here, I think that'll just panic him. So we're just holding up the Vamp Tutor, I think. I was going to get down the Thornbite Staff, but I am reconsidering now. So we'll leave it there and wait for the Vamp Tutor to come down. We don't want to see that. A Sword of Feast and Famine will no doubt hit us in order to untap his lands. We're seeing a Vault of the Archangel as well. It's noteworthy that next turn we can go for the Sweet Gum Recluse and put Vamp Tutor on the stack for a free Cascade, so that might be worth noting. Not sure what we'd cheat in with that though. Anyway, the sword obviously going on to the commander. So that will be a 5 power creature with double strike. And then another walker, Gideon, ally of Zendikar. Alright, now targeting the blue player, Shadrix. And they decided to draw a card over here, so Inkling and draw. They could still swing in over here with the commander. Yeah, and they are going in there because they do have protection from the Inkling tokens with them being black. There's no other reaches or flyers over here. So that bodes well for us. They are on 4 points of commander, so they'll be on 14 after this. Noteworthy that there is a stun counter here though, so that's not going to untap. And it is double strike here, so the blue player having to discard 2 cards. And the strong cards, a Rhystic Study and a Mana Crypt. Untapping the lands as well. Didn't do anything between the untaps there, but Gideon making a token, and then Elspeth Tyrrell going into the graveyard, but making 3 soldier tokens on the way out, so can go for Vault of the Archangel at the end of our turn. Then we see another walker, Kaya Geist Hunter, and creatures you control gain Death Touch until the end of the turn, a plus counter on 1 creature token you control. And the Spirit being activated once again. This has been an all-star, discard and draw. We'll trigger the Watcher again. I'm going to keep this thing from being activated. Does the stun counter keep it from being activated, or is it just an untap thing? Yeah, it just stops it from untapping, so I'm assuming that they're worried about this becoming animated. Passing through to the blue player's turn here, thinking they might have counter magic, but yeah, I'm just going to give them the opportunity to maybe counter the Vamp Tutor if that's what we go for this turn. Still not sure what to tutor for. It's not the most powerful deck on Earth, and we need life and we need lore effects in on a board state like this. Alright, seeing a high tide now with 4 islands or 5 islands in play. Phyrexian Altar. Alright, now a Whelming Wave, so a one-sided bounce for everybody. No cards in hand at least. But now would be the time. Okay. They go for Jace's Archivist there. That's weird. See, I would go for the Whelming Wave, let it resolve, and then wheel everyone's hands. Anyway, we might as well go for the Vamp Tutor now then. So now I'm not entirely sure what to go for, in all honesty. There's no straight up board wipe in the deck, which I probably should have. I was hoping to be able to control the board better than this, but you can't out-control an actual control player, apparently. So maybe we do just aim for Shadow Spear, Swiftfoot Boots, and our Commander next turn, because we are going to have our Commander in hand. So yeah, we'll just put the Shadow Spear on top. We're going to draw a bunch of other stuff anyway. Okay, drew into a Cartouche of Strength, which will give double strike and a fight as well. That is an actual fight, isn't it? Yeah, so we have to be wary of that, but if our commander has lifelink, we won't necessarily mind. Another spider with Death Touch, and the Shadow Spear, obviously. So in response to their own Whelming Wave after the wheel, they're going for more discard stuff. And now putting stun counters on our non-land mana pieces. Now 2 stun counters on the Mana Crypt, so we're not going to be using that again this game. Might be that our opponent's lost some tentacle tokens now as well. And then we saw a Transcendent Message there. Draw X cards and they use Convoke, so they've gone up to 7 cards in hand. That's a good bit of tech. Before everything getting bounced, still the Whelming Wave on the stack. And it's another stun counter on the Sol Ring. Seen a 3rd counter on the Sol Ring and on the Mana Crypt. So has 3 blue mana, I'm assuming sacrifice them to the altar. And finally, the Whelming Wave decides to resolve. And then we are taking 9 commander damage from the Watcher, so that's probably us done, most likely. And then could lose life to the Mana Crypt as well. And we do lose the flip. Alright, so see what we draw into with the Sylvan Library. Not going to get any card advantage, but we can get some card filtering at least. Rishkar's Expertise showing up too late, so Forest and the Rishkar's Expertise on top. Play the Woodland Cemetery. They've replayed the Jace's Archivist as well, by the way. Had to leave the room while our opponent was playing there, so I missed that. Yeah, we can't afford to play and equip the Shadow Spear, unfortunately. Can't afford to drop the Cartouche either, because we're having our mana mess with. So I think ultimately we just have to get down a spider, and we can throw out the Shadow Spear as well. Equip the Shadow Spear, and then we can go for the Cartouche. So we're going to gain 3 life here, which will have us survive the Mana Crypt at least, because that bumps that up to a 3/3 with Death Touch, Lifelink, Reach and Trample, and we'll fight the commander over there. So both those creatures trade. Obviously this could swing in at us and then we could get lightning bolted out of the game, but I think we're pretty much done here anyway. Just hope it's not too late for the Orzhov player, because his threat assessment wasn't the best in the early game. Shadrig's back into play again and getting equipped up with the sword. And now see a Sword of Fire and Ice as well for the Pro Blue, which can also be equipped. So that should stand Shadrig's in good stead. Then plussing on the Kaya. They actually can't target the commander with that because it's black. Kaya minusing down, making twice as many tokens, so Gideon makes a couple of knights. we get targeted with the Shadrix. So that was a plus counter on all of our stuff, and our opponent made a couple of Inklings. Now seeing Arcanis the Omnipotent from the blue player, followed by an Isochron Scepter. And underneath that we see an Offer You Can't Refuse, which luckily they can't afford. Well, they can if they want to sacrifice a creature. We know we've got a land on top, so we can go for Shelob with Lightning Greaves and the Shadow Spear on it next turn. Yeah, and this thing swings in towards us, so if our opponent had given us an Inkling, we could have survived this and maybe helped him out, but maybe the Orzhov player doesn't need help. We're at the mercy of the Mana Crypt now. So we'll go for Tails That Never Fails, and there we go, win the flip, so we do get another turn here. And there's that Rishkar's Expertise that we're not going to be able to make use of thanks to a lack of mana. If we got off that Traverse the Outlands previously, then we'd be in a much better position, but yeah, didn't manage to cast this unfortunately. And Arachnogenesis is interesting, but really we're at the mercy of Mana Crypt anyway, so it can go Rishkar's Expertise, Arachnogenesis, and we'll keep hold of the Forest. So then it's Forest, cast ourselves a Shelob, and I'm only just noticing actually that Shelob doesn't have reach, weirdly. So does that force us to swing in with Shelob here in order to guarantee that we gain the life? Just need to hope the Orzhov player leaves us alone, really. So we're seeing now why, well, part of the reason that I got down the Shadow Spear last turn. Obviously we knew we had a land on top, so we could afford to do all this. And let's gain ourselves 9 life here and attempt to stay in the game. We're still really teetering on the edge, but we can land that Rishkar's Expertise sometime soon, then that'll be good. Our opponent's on 8 Shelob commander damage, so that'll be 17 commander in total, and we do have trample on it now. Couldn't swing into the Shadrix because it has pro green and black, so pretty sure Shadrix can get rid of the blue player next turn with commander damage alone anyway. Yeah, there's 17 Shelob and 14 Shadrix, so Shadrix going over there alone will finish off this player. Question is, does he do it or not? I mean, he's got pro Golgari, so should be able to deal with us anyway. There is a Whip of Erebos. Alright, so after that Whip of Erebos reanimating for a turn the Deathbringer Liege, so that's going to be us done, I think. Yeah, the Shadrix goes in, finishes off the blue player, and then we get the tokens and the Liege. So that is a turn 12 game done. Got controlled there too much, really. I don't think we made incredible draws either. Like I said before, if we'd managed to get down that ramp on the Traverse the Outlands, then it might have been a different game. We could have come back a bit more on a few different occasions. But if you don't have the mana to go with the Rishkar's Expertise and all the rest of it, then it's not going to do you much good, unfortunately. So our opponent just going to put these triggers on the stack before getting rid of us. And there we are, that's us done. So yeah, saw a little bit of what Shelob wants to do. I think the only real relevant creature that we got control of was the Shadrix. If we had a means of getting rid of the wheel on legs, the Jace's Archivist with a Chromatic Lantern or some means of making different colours of mana, then obviously we could have made use of that as well. And the cats, cats come back again, hello. Yeah, anyway, I will leave it there because the kitten has distracted me. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. Hopefully Cat enjoyed it as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.